And now we're in a half pint.
Yeah, that's a quick scene change there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit more relaxed. So, Haavard, I saw on the news that there was a mountain moving in Norway.
Yes, and yes.
Is it your fault?
Luckily, not that I'm aware of. But again, it's. I mean, all the mountains in Norway has been moving since 10,000 years ago when the ice age left, because the ice pressed the country down. So we're still
Yeah.
rising due to that. So, and of course,
Yeah,
that
but this
makes.
was like 1.5 centimeters an hour top
Yeah,
speed. That's rather much for a mountain, I would say.
we have we have a few mountains where they are continuously monitoring them, and the people living there are moved out of their houses several times a year, because now it's a lot of movement and then nothing ever happens. But of course, in history, there has been a couple of huge rock slides into fjords, causing tidal waves and killing people. So it's the potential is there, but I mean, we are so used to living with it. I mean, it. Of course, I'm living now at a place where there are not too many mountains, and none of them are moving very much. So I really don't understand if you have to evacuate your home 3 4 times a year because now the mountain right above your head is moving. How do you sleep at night? I wouldn't move back. And of course, it's I understand it's hard for some of them because they bought that house. Maybe they have a mortgage, and they can't just root up, and you can't sell it. And of course, being a death trap, so you're kind of stuck with it. And of course, you can move, but then you're going to be in double debt for the rest of your life. So it's difficult, but then again, I would rather live than to die in my sleep. But then again, some people say that's the best way to go. I mean, if it's a rock slide or a heart attack, I mean, you're equally dead, I guess. So.
You don't find with people though, what if you've grown up in that area knowing that there's rock slides, and from a young age you've been used to evacuating for 3 or 4 times a year, it's not out of the ordinary.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind
that's
of
true.
just normal to you. It's only when someone like ourselves who don't have that go and look at that from the outside and say, well, that's not right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the funny thing, though. I don't think Norwegians, on general basis, are very interested in history or taking notice, because in of course you have a lot of fjords, and because of that you have a lot of valleys, and if you go more than 100 years back, all the houses, all the farms, they were way up in the mountainside. And of course, in the 60s, 70s, something happened. Like, people like, oh, but it's so nice. We're going to build ourselves a new house. So we build it right at the riverfront because we like the sound of moving water. And of course, every 5 year there is a flood, which in all over Norway takes out a lot of houses. You can see videos on the news where the houses are floating down the river, and then of course the insurance companies complain that they have to put the houses back up again. And it was a fun news article here the other day. There's a family, they had to rebuild their house for the third time in 15 years, because it turns out that roughly on average every 5 year there is a flood. And at the last point, the insurance company said, we are not paying out the premium here unless you build your house further away from the river. If you plan on putting the house up at your same plot of land, we are not going to finance it. And then, of course, the guy putting up the house, he was pissed because, yeah, but this is where I've always lived. Well, one in every 5 years you have to live somewhere else where we're rebuilding your house because of the flood. So yeah, okay, technically you have been living there for the entire time, but it amazes me that like we've taken no learning from that. All the old houses are up in the hillside because they know that, well, the river is moving, so we stay away from that. And then in the 70s, like, now we're going to build all our houses there. So all the cities uh, that has grown for the last 30 years, it's that they have grown around the rivers, and every time it's a flood there's a multi-million catastrophe for the insurance companies. And but no one seems to, oh, this is where we're gonna live.
Yeah, it's interesting that who is to blame? Is it the person building the house, or is it the county or whoever who gives the planning permission? Because they really
Yeah,
shouldn't. And now we
yeah,
have a thing that they've given planning permission on a spot, and now they're taking it back. So they you wouldn't get a new planning permission there. So the county is more or less washing their hands of it. And
yeah.
whose fault is it then if something happens? Because you were allowed to build there before. It's
But again, I mean, rightfully so, but it's also understandable from the planning department, because every small municipality that they would like people to move to their county or whatever, because that is added revenue, it's more people, higher birth rate or whatever. So they, of course, at some point, like, they give like £10,000 bonuses for families who want to move there and start living there. So of course people have been incentivized to move there for years, and then suddenly it turns out, oh, nope, my house is washed away every now and then. So
there was a reason that no one else had built a house there before.
exactly.
It's not exclusive to you guys. We've started doing it over here as well. I don't know quite how far back it was, but they seem to have relaxed the planning on all the floodplains. So now you've got, certainly down the road from my house, there's a river about a mile away. There's a pub that sounds just like this house. The insurance company refused to pay out for the last one because it flooded for the third time in about 7 or 8 years, and they've just built 100 houses next to it. I
Good
can't imagine
planning.
what's going to happen there in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
No.
But they sold them all, so there's some very nice houses that very shortly people are going to have some water features they never expected.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and you wonder how many of those who bought them did a calculated risk, or but
Yeah,
you're totally oblivious of the fact and will get a huge surprise, as you say.
yeah,
Oh, I feel sorry for them.
But it is interesting that, and I've discussed with friends earlier, the phenomenon of having a cellar under your house. And when did that happen in Norway, and why? Of course, it is an added volume to your house without expanding the footprint. But in my mind, having a cellar, that's just a swimming pool waiting to happen. And a friend of mine who's a builder, and he said, I just said jokingly that if we're ever going to build a new house from scratch, we're going to build it without a cellar, because if it's 10 years, 20, 30, 40, at some point, you're going to have some water, moisture ingress. And we're now living in a house from the 60s, and usually a lot of people living in houses that old, they're now having mini excavators parked outside because they have to dig up around the entire house to put new drainage in and whatnot. So what's the benefit of a cellar? I mean, earlier they used it to store food because it has a more stable climate and whatnot, but the need is not there anymore. So, but the complexity of the building, having a cellar underneath, with the constant difference in temperature and moisture trying to get in, and like it makes no sense to me, but here we are.
It makes it harder to build it, of course. But if you keep it, if you do it correctly, it's no problem. I mean, we haven't had any indication of water trying to get in our basement. Um, but as you say, we don't have the need for it. No, I mean, when this house was built over 100 years ago, the basement was, it was a boiler, the big like cubic meters oil uh, tank, and cold storage, and a toilet. That was it. And then just expanded to the garage that is now the workshop, and the people who own this before us dug out this part, so where I'm sitting at the moment. Um, so it's also more space. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice in the summertime to have somewhere cool to go, but nowadays with proper and cheap uh, heat pumps that both works for heating the house and can be used for AC as well. You don't really need, you don't need a place to heat your house, to keep the fuel as well, and you don't need a cool place to chill out.
No, see, I've only had one house with a cellar, and to be fair, wasn't a good place. No natural light, very damp. Um, like I say, 100 years ago, maybe to keep things in, but in the modern sort of world, how useful are they when you've got all those things that you listed that we can use instead of going and sitting in a dark room?
I mean, to be fair, we when I grew up, my first 12 years we didn't have one, but then we my father built a new house, and that had a cellar, and my room was quickly became in the cellar. I more or less occupied half of it with my room and my own living room, so to say. I'm an only child, can you tell? So I more or less grew up underground. I really like it when it's dark. um,
Yeah, and that is a it's I'm not sure if it's a Scandinavian phenomenon, but we are of a generation that probably 80% of us lost our virginity in the basement living room or something, because that was where you were spending your time. And of course, a cellar makes sense in the parts where you have like a slope. We have a slope. That means that
yeah, me too.
two of the walls are exposed and you can have larger windows and you can get natural light in. But around Oslo, you have a lot of these flat sediment areas where if you're putting a cellar in, all four walls are going to be covered in this very moist sediment. So it is a water ingress waiting to happen. And of course, when you have no exposed walls at all, it you basically have to take one wall at a time if you have to do anything, so that it's still supported. So I would like to, instead of spending the money making the cellar floor, I would rather spend that money in putting that as an extra floor on top of the first floor. But then again, it might be preferences.
So no cellar in the new workshop then.
No. Um, one wall is going to be a combined retaining wall, so it's going to be towards the ground, so to speak. So I need to make sure there is no water ingress there, but it can then run off to the side. So if I have a good barrier on the outside with some insulation, it should be good.
As
But
long as there's a slope so the water has somewhere to go, and I know that you have a slope, then it won't be a problem. I think the water would much rather go around your house than through your house. It's only, as you say, if it's trapped on all sides, and if you have your house in the bottom of a valley or something like that, and the
yeah,
water has nowhere to go, then it will go inside. But if you can float around, or preferably under your house, then it's no problem. But
yeah.
going back to your workshop, what are your plans for heating? Are you going to put in some floor heating? or will you go and do the bunny slippers to protect your fragile feet?
Um, no, I'm not gonna put in floor heating because it's expensive. And I
But it's
don't.
nice.
It is, but it is. I mean, you have something called carpets. I know in England they're very, very aware of this concept, but um, no, it's going to be a workshop. It's going to be up to code so that if any future owner would like to, I mean, you should be allowed to put a bedroom in and use it for occupation. No,
Yeah.
occupancy, whatever it's called. But it's not going to be anything else than a workshop for me. So I'm thinking on the first floor where I'll do office work, editing, electronic works. I'm gonna have a carpet because I'm just gonna have the plated floors, and I'm just gonna leave it at that, and just gonna put out carpet. It's good for sound insulation, and it is more than comfortable enough. I really like the carpet in my workshop today. And in the lower floor where I'm gonna do the metal work and whatnot, I see myself drilling in the sole of the floor to
Ah,
fasten
yeah,
tools and whatnot. And if you have to have a very detailed overview of where the heating cables are because you want to put a ground anchor in for a old green mastodont of a tool, then
that's a good point,
but
actually.
it's not going to be that big as well. I've been down in the slope uh, measuring up, and it's I can't stretch it to 6 7 meters times 8, so it's like I'm not going to fill it with a lot of huge green industrial sized tools. It's not going to be room for that. But no, the heating will be electrical, and I will put in a wood fired oven so
Ah,
that I can burn my own scrap wood and feel that I'm saving the environment, polluting it with
yeah.
all the toxic fumes from
I
from
was gonna
plywood.
say.
Plywood and other bits of offcuts that you've glued together and
Yeah.
paints and finishes on. Yeah, he'll be
Some
fine.
some oily rags and whatnot. Yeah, it's gonna be like the Vatican. Or the opposite. It's not gonna be a lot of white smoke. It's gonna be a lot of
But
Yeah, but
that'd be an interesting concept for a video, though, wouldn't it? Because you could have a coding on your smoke. So when you're starting a project, you need to put something on the burner that burns one color, and then as you get to the end and you finish it, it should almost be like a celebration to throw that whatever it is that's going to make the different coloured smoke to signify that you've finished a project.
yeah. That's a good idea. That a smoke for a new project, and then blue smoke or whatever when it's up on YouTube.
can you have some automatic dispenser that for every 100 views you get, it pushes in some magnesium or whatever in your fire to make it go to celebrate it.
Yeah, and
No, but
I mean, it's always been. I've discussed it with my dad in our in his old house, or my parents' old house, because there is a lot of heat loss in the piping, and of course you can mitigate that with having some of the piping exposed before they go into the chimney and out, but you still lose a lot of heat. So we discussed like, but what if you make like a copper tube, like a heat exchanger, and put that into the chimney? Could you then get that water hot enough that it could add to the hot water system of the house, or could you use it to boil water for your coffee or whatnot? And I mean, in a workshop with, I'm gonna have like a open pipe. I'm not gonna have a brick chimney, so it's of course very easy to just change out one piece of the chimney pipe to do an experiment. So yeah, I see some experimental workshop videos on the technical side.
Yeah, it will definitely get hot. The question is how to build an heat system around something that fluctuates that much. Because when you're not using it, it will be cold, and when you're burning it, it will be very hot. So
Yeah,
that's it's not just a couple of degrees that system have to handle, but I'm sure you can figure something out.
yeah. And of course, the I talked to the neighbor here the other day, and he said that well, if you're planning on doing anything, you could just as well put a roof terrace on because it's not gonna interfere with their view, and they didn't care. So in in my sketches, I actually have a roof terrace in, and that was the one thing I talked with a builder friend is that in the winter time it's nice to be able to go from the downstairs workshop to the upstairs, but I don't want to lose a lot of floor space to a traditional stairs. I would like to have one of those metal spiral staircases. I also think those looks cool, but they're not very accessible friendly. So if you're building a house up to code today, it needs to be accessible by wheelchair. The doors have to be so and so wide. But it turns out that you can have a spiral stair as long as there is good access. If you have to go outside and down and then go back in again, that is acceptable. So then I'm thinking in the one corner, I would like to have a spiral staircase. And then, of course, since the neighbor don't care, then that will also go up. So I can just pop my head up on the roof and inspect the chimney and have a beer, basically.
Just have a lawn chair beside the chimney.
Yeah.
That's a nice picture.
And
It's
of
sort
course, yeah, sorry.
be sort of how you have your day, wouldn't it? Start off in the workshop in the morning, build something, upstairs to edit in the afternoon, and at tea time to celebrate up onto the roof for a beer as you're pressing publish.
Yeah.
Nice
And
workflow.
and of course we I say we because my wife is very much on board for this. Voluntary, involuntary. We might not get into the details, but um, we are now at the point we have been discussing it, and I think it's past the 90% where we're gonna live here until the kids are grown up because it's a good school and they have good friends and there is no point for us in moving. So then yes, I could build my workshop, and that means that I can really start the planning. So I've been spending the last couple of weeks doing the sketches, and of course you start to daydream about having your own shop. And when I go into my workshop now, it's like, do I care doing this upgrade if I'm in 1 to 2 years it's gonna move out? But yeah, I could do it anyway, so I could test it out. If it works, then I'll transfer that to the new workshop. But it is sad to go from having a space that's been made available to you, like my garage now, and I try to make the best out of it, to actually build something from scratch, purpose built to what you are doing. And then, of course, what if we, at that point, like, what if in 7 years my wife get the dream job and it's obvious, okay, we need to move. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And then I have to leave my dream workshop to some other prick who don't know how to value it. He might not even have his own YouTube channel. That's sacrilege.
But then you know exactly how to build the next one.
Yeah. Then the question is, how could it be made modular? So, like on the last day when you hand over the keys, yeah, by the way, there's going to be 2 lorries here in an hour and pick up the workshop. That was never included. If you read the fine print, it's I'm taking that with me.
Your problem is though, you risk the other side of that happening, putting it off just in case you move, and in 7 to 10 years look back thinking, I could have had that workshop.
Yeah, I will. Exactly. You will never regret it after you moved in. I will never regret it. So it's just to get the ball rolling. And it started last year with the notion, all right, should I start with a container and then I could stack another one there and I could just make some cladding around them and make them proper, and then yeah, that would end up costing the same as the foundation for the workshop. And then I have also been looking into, should we do it so proper that, I mean, we've recently talked to the bank about moving our financing from one bank to another because they got some better interest rates. And then when we looked at the differences and so on, I also used their calculators. Like, all right, let's say I, instead of using 2 years and a lot of my own time, what if I just pay someone to do it and just like, yep, I give my sketches to the architect and like press play. You take all the process of applying and whatnot and making the work drawings, and then we get the company and just knock it up in no time. So then like, yeah, trying to estimate how much would that cost, and then just putting that into the calculator, and yeah, it's not too bad actually. So yeah, you could save and do a little bit now and a little bit then, or should you just talk to the bank and have your dream workshop in very short time, and then yes, you have to pay it down for a few years, but you get your dream workshop maybe 4 or 5 years earlier than if you had to like do some bit here and some bit there. And so yeah, I'm really stoked, but of course also terrified at the same time.
Yeah. And the question is, do you want to make 1,000 episodes video series about you building your workshop, or do you want the workshop to make other projects in?
That's the thing though, and I think it's a bit like Laura Kampf on the house. You will attract different, I mean, building a workshop have its separate demographic,
Yeah,
but once you're done, it's like they're not interested in the rest. And to me, a workshop is the place where I build other stuff. I don't want to build the workshop for the workshop. So I would be perfectly happy having the floor, the walls, the ceiling, everything up. And then just at the level where I can start mounting the tools and arranging the countertops and like I want them. That's the level where I'm perfectly happy
yeah. And I
joining
mean,
into the process.
an investment like that, it's a zero money game, because I mean, you're raising the value of your property, so you will get that back when you eventually sell it. So it just
Yeah,
it's not.
that's the way I want to build it to code as well, with the bathroom and a layout so you can put up a few walls and have a bedroom, because then it is actually a fully rental situation, and then yes, it will add to the value of the property. So
I must admit, I think if it were me, it's and finances permitted, I'd want it to a state where someone got the work done to get the shell up, and then the inside I'd take on from there. I think.
Yeah,
Otherwise, like you say, you get into that 2 3 year project, and depending how long, and it doesn't sound a long window for yourselves with the summer for the building time, you could quite easily run into a multi-year project that
yeah.
you start to get to the point where you think, am I going to finish this?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I saw my father building his own house uh, over 30 years ago now, and he did it everything he could do by himself. He did by himself. I mean, he cut down the trees in the forest and took them to the sawmill and had them made into planks, and then he brick and mortar the entire foundation. And I mean, it took him almost 5 years to build that house. So that was a big chunk of our lives when every day was spent there building a
Yeah.
house. So I
yeah.
mean, if you're not an experienced builder, it takes a lot of time. So I think, as you said, getting someone who actually knows what they're doing. I mean, they are what they're called. house factories. I mean, where they build all the walls and everything inside, and then you just chip it in parts, and it's
Yeah.
up in like a day as soon as the foundation is done. I think it's worth it.
And that is, of course, the downside, because I have been looking at those as well. I mean, as long as you have a company in making the foundation, I've seen a lot of houses. They come turnkey after 2 weeks. So there is two lorries with a crane and a four-man crew, and they put it up in a fortnight. And they come finished with the electronics and everything. So of course they just put it together, and then you have to have a certified electrician to just do the connections in the corners, and then everything is pre-arranged. Um, and of course that is also cheaper than having a team building it the traditional way. So I have been looking at these, I call them kit houses. Are any
Yeah.
of them in the shape with the two floors that I need for my workshop? I can easily skip on a few of my ideas. If this fits my purpose 80%, I can make the last 20% work by just fine tuning the way I would have my work carried out in the workshop. But still, I haven't found anything that's been close to like 80% of what I want. So, but yeah, that would be nice. Just 2 months making the concrete foundation and the pipes and everything, and then someone coming in and just hoisting it in place. And after 2 weeks, it's like, all right, it's time to go in and start putting French cleats on the walls.
There was a TV program over here. It's a popular renovation one, and one of the builds one week was exactly that. And I think it came from Poland. They drove it over, and it was so
Yeah,
far finished that even the inside walls were painted or wallpapered as they were meant to be. And as they put the walls
yeah,
together, it literally they plugged the connectors together for the electricity was already plumbed in. They just plugged the connectors together, put the walls in, and that was it. The entire thing was up in
yeah.
about 10 days.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Poland and in Norway, a lot of the companies are in Lithuania, I think, because they have a very good building
Yeah.
tradition. And so a lot of these companies they have storefronts all over Europe, but the factories are in Lithuania. And of course, it's very easy to get lorries, either the landway or with ferry over and through Sweden and so on. So, yeah.
Speaking of all of these workshops, what is your workshop situation, Ross? Do you have, is it a one car garage that it looks like, or?
Yes and no. So it's kind of two. It's a strange setup. It's like two singles next to each other with a 5 foot gap in between. So
Okay.
it's not like a true double. It's like
Oh, okay, it's a separated
so
double.
it's got a separation in, and I've got one side dedicated to the workshop, and then the other side you don't see as much, but that's where I've got my laser. I'm going to call it wood storage, but it's just turned into scrap wood piles. And then half of that one then is your domestic type of stuff like the dryer and a bit of storage and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So I've got about 1.5 garages as the
that's
workshop.
impressive. I think that's probably ideal size if you don't want it to be industrial.
Yeah, see,
But you always want bigger.
size is relative though, isn't it? Because I traded up. We moved houses 2, maybe 3 years ago for schooling, to get into the area with the better schools, and I traded up from having half a garage to 1.5, and I thought it was amazing. And then what you find is, just like as you get a bigger house, all you do is you fill it with more stuff.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
don't actually have any more room because the room that you have, you fill. So I'm now at that point where it's like, well, I don't have enough room for the next upgrades that I would like. I've got to start replanning the workshop should I get them. So you're just never happy, are you, as a woodworker? You always want that little bit more, that bit more room, that extra tool, that whatever it is, and just end up playing workshop Jenga.
Yeah, but I think it might be only me, but I think it's probably good to have a, a space that is just under what you would dream about. So you're actually forced to do some thinking. Oh, should I get this tool? What do I have to move out? I mean, it's like the same with if you take a too big suitcase on holiday, then you fill it up, and then
Yeah.
it's really heavy and hard to move around. But if you force yourself to take a smaller suitcase, then you get everything you need because you're actually scrutinizing what you're putting in it.
Yeah, and I'll put my hands up to this one. One of the biggest problems I've got is in the moment I think that's how I want something, so I'll go and do it, and I never quite mastered future proofing things. So I built a rack for my laser when I got it, and put the laser at the height that I wanted. It wasn't until afterwards that I thought there's 3 foot of space underneath that, and I've nothing that fits there. So instantly, I'd realised I'd made a mistake because I didn't think it through in the heat of wanting to get something done in a particular way.
Mm.
And as I look around the workshop now, having been there a couple of years, well, why did I make that size? Why did if I'd have done it this way or that way, I'd have been able to increase storage or opportunities for new tools and try cut out some of those dead spaces that you end up with.
Yeah, I felt that. I felt a bit bad. Now last week when my kid made that knife and he wanted it. So okay, where are you gonna put it? You put it in your room? No, it doesn't really fit there. I think it fits in the workshop. Yeah, we should because you have all your stuff on your wall of fame. I want my own space, but yeah, sure we can. Where would we find space for your stuff? Look around, it's like it's not an inch left. Or okay, but you can hang it here on my wall instead. So yeah, I think I have to rearrange some parts to actually make some space for the kids as well. If they show an interest to want to be in the workshop, I should encourage that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. Um, I'm of course at that place that I need a messy workshop to feel inspired as well, and my aesthetics, dream aesthetics, is like Adam Savage's workshop, where all the walls are filled. I mean, you could just look at a wall and discover new things all the time. And of course, being your own workshop, you have full control of mostly where everything is. And that was fun last time when I met you, Ross, over at Glenn's workshop, because I was gonna do some few things and like I don't know where anything is, and he's the kind it's tidy and he put it away. I have everything that I'm using often. It's hanging somewhere where I can reach it and see it. I don't put it away, and of course, it to a lot of people it looks messy, but it's always integrated with my workflow as well because my Japanese pull saw is just hanging on the side of the table. It looks like yeah, I just put it there one day, but it's where I can easily just get a hold of it when I need it. So it's like eclectic clutter, if you can call it that. But there is a purpose to it. But of course, only I see the purpose. So if I had a big workshop, I would still fill it to the brim because then I would feel the creativity of it. So
I think that's it with a workshop, isn't it? There's a balance between you want things to look semi-tidy, but if you're having to take 4 or 5 steps every time you need to pick your drill up, then how functional is it? Whereas if you've got stuff out, and I'm exactly the same, my drills are always just laid on the side, uh, always within arm's reach. Same with a couple of tools like my pencils and set square. I always mean to put them back, but never manage to because you go for them every few minutes in a build.
yeah. And that's
Yeah.
maybe the thing I miss the most, but I might not be able to achieve it even with the big workshop. But it's like if you're doing a leather working project and you really don't feel inspired one day, you can just leave it out on the table and then you can go and all right, but I'll have a woodworking project over here. and I have some metal project in the metal part of the workshop. But I'm now at that point that I can only have one project going at any time, because if I'm going to do something completely, I have to tidy it away because I don't have enough work surfaces to. So that's the thing I'm missing the most when it comes to space. That I can have two, three projects in parallel just out without having to pack it down every day.
But does that lead to its own problem then, that you've got two or three projects that are always unfinished? Because in the moment you want to go do leather work and you start a project and then you put that down, and 2 months later you're like, oh, well, that leather's still just sat there. I've never gone back to that. Whereas at least when you don't have that space, you have to finish a project. You might be able to maybe get two small projects going, uh, but you've always got to finish something to make room for the next one.
Yeah, maybe. But then again, if it's just laying there, I might see it after 2 months. If I put it away, then I might not see it in 2 years because I forgot about it. But I mean, I have so much project that I can easily forget about the project for several years. I still have other projects.
Yeah, there's no risk of running out.
No, I have my clipboard A5 with all my projects on it, and now I started writing on the outer parts of the paper. So I'm adding more than I'm subtracting. So yeah, there's no problem there.
But if you wasn't adding to the project list, there's always that danger that you'd run out. So it's always a good thing. And it always keeps you going because you know you've got to get something ticked off to get on to the next one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
an interest.
having that long list of things that this would be fun to do, but you're not feeling it right now, and you might never feel it, but you have. But if you okay, either I do this table, say, or I do something else, and then you get inspired to do something else because nothing inspires me to do something else than having being forced to do something, because it's always the next project that seems more fun.
But it
Definitely.
is interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment, though, because if you have a list of where you put down everything you want to do, then there is a theoretical chance that sometime in the future you have done all those projects. And what if you just run out of things to fill up? Like, how would that feel like that you have one project one day, and once you've finished it, it's like, yeah, I'm done now. There is, because I've seen people doing that. They have either a profession or a hobby, and they are putting a lot of work and effort into it, and then at some point they're just like, yep, I'm done doing that now. I'm doing something completely different, and they never return to it. It's like my
That sounds weird.
like I never understood it. I mean I've been playing around. I've been faffing around with the guitars since I was a kid, but I never had the attention span to get good at it because I always wanted to do everything else. But my father played in a band, and he was a much better guitar player than I could ever aspire to be. But at some point, he just like, yeah, that is not me anymore, and he just put it on the shelf. And his guitar was always there, and of course, I started playing on them, and he just showed me the ropes. And then after I became an adult, it could take 2 or 3 years. And then one weekend, I was home, and we had a few beers, and you could just like pick it off the wall and just play something really quick that I could never, in several years of training, be able to pull off. And it's like, yeah, still got it. And then you put it up on the wall again, and it could take like 5 years again before it touched it. And like, it's it makes no sense to me. How can you get to that point that you become so good at something that you obviously love, and I'm like, nope, I reached the end of it. So like, I can't wrap my head around that, but it is a good thought experiment. If am I running the risk of doing that in my workshop? Just one day publishing a video and like being really good about it, and like, yep, turns out that was my last video. Just like, yeah. So
I could see it more with the video side than the making. The making, I think there'll always be
Yeah.
something for you to make. You'll always want something new at home, and I'm assuming you guys got into it for the naive reason that I did. That you look at something, thinking, I can build that better and cheaper, and then you realize that actually those two statements, one day you might actually get to better, but you'll never get to cheaper.
yeah.
So I can't see that with the making, but certainly the videos, I could imagine a point where, and you see it with plenty of makers. I've got people on my subscription list where I've not seen a video from for a couple of years now. And people just drop off. Certainly the video side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I agree with you. I can much easier see myself just not making videos anymore because I find something else that's more interesting. But I have been making stuff my entire life, so I struggle seeing that it's like I'm gonna have my last day in the workshop and then nope, I'm gonna buy everything from here and just spend my evenings watching Yellowstone and all the series on Netflix to catch up.
Yeah, the only way to stop us making, I feel, is like if you're paralyzed from the neck down or something like that. Some other tragic thing that you actually can't do it anymore. But then I'm sure we will find some mental making to do instead, because I think we have a creative itch that needs to be scratched in one way or the other.
Well, that's it. And if nothing else, you've got to find something to do with that time that you've vacated from making. So, like you say,
Mm.
you're not just going to go from making to all of a sudden watching 5 hours of TV on an evening or whatever. You're gonna have to find something to fill that time void that you've left behind.
But I think that's too heavy topic to think about tonight. I think so.
The time void, isn't that a good way to wrap up the half find with?
I
Think
think
of
so.
the time void. That social media we talked about, the void, that
Yes.
when no one sees anything, just scream at it and nothing happens. Which kind of feels like YouTube these days.
I was gonna say. I mean, we are getting there faster than we would like to admit. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you very much, Ross, for coming on and stepping up when Glenn can't be bothered.
Oh no,
Yeah,
it's
been
honestly,
lovely.
thank you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, and if you can hear this, Glenn, I mean, if you want to, you can have another week or two. That's fine by us. No pressure. No pressure.
It'll be interesting to see now if he puts something in the group on Saturday. If he's been listening and he puts anything in about those last comments in the CMO group.
Yeah. Guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, thank you all for listening, and see you in the void.
See you in the void.
See you later.